Well, typically at the Adolescent Center, we would get young men between the ages of 12 and 18, but very rarely did we get an 18-year-old. Most of them ended up in the adult system. This young man, Joe, was referred to us by his juvenile probation officer. He had had a charge earlier on in life, an underage drinking and driving charge, and he had been doing outpatient treatment in his home county. It was not Mahoning County, it was somewhere else in Ohio. And the probation officer felt very much that this young man was somebody who should be treated in a juvenile facility, that an adult facility would have been damaging to him. But it was about April of his senior year. He was drinking and driving, had a taillight out, got picked up. And I get this phone call, hey, will you come, give this kid an assessment to see if he's appropriate for your program? It's not often that I had to go to, in fact, this was the first time I had to go to a county jail to assess a juvenile. And I was a little nervous. It was intimidating. I go and I meet Joe, and here's this person that's behind glass. In a juvenile setting, I could sit and engage with a kid across the table in a holding cell, have some type of engagement to where I could show them the paperwork and really help them understand. But here's a young man who has all the adult liberties, and it's the first time he's had to be faced with those adult liberties and responsibilities, and it's because he got a DUI, and he is being coerced into treatment. It was treatment in lieu of this charge. It was scary for him. However, there was this bravado. He had kind of this air about him in that environment. I think he needed to carry that with him there because he needed to protect himself, he felt. But through sitting and talking and helping him understand that this was a good option for him, I got an understanding that he didn't feel he had a problem, that he binge drank on alcohol regularly, that this was a normal thing for teenagers to do. And in fact, in his family's culture, I got the sense that this was a thing that was acceptable, and that he was a student athlete, he was a good kid, he should be able to cut loose every now and then, and the fact that his taillight was out is not something that he should have to lose his summer over, because our program was a minimum of 90 days, he was going to give up his summer to be with us. And through talking with him, he was willing to try. And he came down a couple days later, and was problematic right away. Just pretty arrogant, and wanted to let the other kids know that he was 18, that he didn't have to be there, that he could have just taken an adult charge and sat in county and dealt with the consequences, and that he was going to graduate in a couple weeks anyway, so what does it matter? And it was not long in his stay with us that I was knock on Miss Megan's door, so-and-so's being rough in group, we can't keep him in there, he's causing problems with the other kids. That happens from time to time. And so I brought him in my office and we sat down, and Joe was ambitious. I mean, that air that he had about him was not just kind of like a cocky teenager thing. He had potential. I mean, he knew it. But what he wasn't aware of is how his current actions would have negatively impacted that potential. So we sat down and we did a genogram. And in the context of completing that genogram, that family tree, come to find out that mom had left when he was young. In his assessment, he didn't disclose that. He just said he had a relationship with his father and his mom had never been in the picture. Your mom had been in the picture, but mom had significant substance use issues and disappeared, throughout his elementary years. And this was very hard for him to talk about and discuss. And you can imagine, you could see kind of the facade rolling off this young man as we talked about family history. Dad had a relationship with alcohol that had led to problems in the family, job issues, financial issues. Sister is the hero, beautiful, charming, dance, everybody loves her. And he was the student that, kind of got away with everything, but like the clown. You could see the family addiction roles playing out throughout this nuclear family, and then the genealogy of the family. Grandparents, some were addicts, some were dealing with poverty. And so we went into talking about what he wanted for himself. Here's this charismatic, attractive, smart young man who has all the opportunity in the world. He's graduating at the age of 18. He's got a license. He's got a probation officer that was looking out for him. Here's this opportunity. What do you want to do with it? And he listed all these wonderful things he wanted to do with his life. He wanted to live by the beach and have a wife and kids and a job and just live a quote-unquote normal life. And I asked him if he thought that his family, any of these family members, would have wanted anything different for themselves. And he thought that they probably wanted the same. And so we talked about what might have kept each of those individuals from achieving those goals. And I think that that was a real eye-opener for him. He really turned a corner after that day in that, what do you want? And how is what you've been doing going to help you get there? He ended up becoming a leader in the house. He kind of took charge of, if the chores weren't getting done, he'd be like, so-and-so, like, this is your chore. And of course, kids would get upset with him, but he kind of parentified himself and really led from the front in the house. And we went to camp that summer. We go to camp every summer at the Adolescent Center. And he was just this big country boy at camp and, showed everybody how to ride the horses and, was in the creek. He lived and he found a way to have sober fun, found himself enjoying his summer thoroughly, and really had a lot of memories of that camp. It was about 6 years ago that Joe was in the Adolescent Center, so he's 24 now. He calls regularly. We hear from him once or twice a year, every year since he left. He sees this program as a life-changing experience. He did relapse shortly after he had left the Adolescent Center early in college, caught himself, got right back in touch with his sponsor, went back to his home group on vacation when he came home from school. And since then, this last phone call in July, he let us know that he had just got married on the beach down south, is happy, healthy, has a beautiful wife, graduated with a bachelor's degree in engineering, and he can recall that intervention, that moment when he made a decision to move forward in his life.